Izuku Shigaraki by Fangirl48 on AO3. Chapter 16. A Visit to a Graveyard. I take it things aren't going any better? Toshinori winced at the question as he waited patiently for a certain person to step off the morning commute. Yes and no. Izuku's memory is starting to come back a little more, but I'm not sure that's necessarily a good thing. Given what you told me, I'm not surprised. The principal spoke, a small bit of anger seeping into his tone. Toshinori sighed as he watched the passing commuters go by, none who he was waiting for. I used to wonder how someone like him could rise to power so quickly. Why so many chose to follow. Izuku mentioned things escalated very quickly, but I still didn't get it. Then I heard about his friend, and suddenly everything makes sense. A mother murdering her husband and child because one had a quirk. Evading the police for years because no one cared to look beyond the child having a quirk. Was it really any wonder how someone like All for One could have been born? The mere thought of it still made Toshinori sick. By God, if someone had done that to Melissa because she didn't have a quirk, Toshinori wasn't sure anyone would be able to stop him, and something told him that Midori and her father were just the tip of a very tragic iceberg. Perhaps this is good for all of us, Nezu pointed out as Toshinori looked up, hearing the voice over the PA announce the arrival of the next train. People frequently see All Might, the symbol of peace, instead of Toshinori Yagi. So by that logic, it is fair to assume that All for One has also carefully crafted its image over the years. Perhaps the real key to defining him really lies within Hisashi Shigaraki. Tsukauchi stepped off the train and immediately spotted Toshinori's tall form over the other people, waving as he got off the train. The blonde gave a weak wave back, giving a small chuckle at something Izuku had told them at breakfast. Did you know that Hisashi can't cook? A complete failure in the kitchen, apparently. And he loved these pink bunny slippers his wife got him as a joke because they always made his son laugh. Nezu remained quiet. And Tomura was apparently quite the card shark, Toshinori continued. I'm guessing that's how they raised most of the money for their school. The symbol of peace heard Nezu chuckle. And I bet Izuku is just as skilled. Repeatedly destroyed us all in Uno. I've never seen Grant so mad. Toshinori laughed. And he was accepted into college at 13. 13! I've never heard of anyone so young being accepted before. Is that so? Nezu spoke, sounding very interested. I suppose I'll have to step up my tutoring. And he made friends with this girl who is applying to UA and her little sister, Toshinori said, glad that Izuku had found someone his own age to talk to. May was driven girl who would give Powerloader a lot of headaches when she was accepted. And Mimi was just adorable. A little shy, but so was Melissa at that age. The two of them had been grilling Aizawa about the school. When we get back, be prepared for a huge presentation on the benefits of a door system. You don't say, Nezu hummed, Toshinori seeing the wheels already turning in the principal's head. Yeah, Toshinori smiled, raising one finger to his friend. I was also thinking of showing him around my agency. It might be good bonding experience for us. Just be careful. Izuku has some... Nezu paused. Interesting opinions, as it were, on the hero system. I think I've already heard some of them, Toshinori said, having witnessed One rant, considering the age of those who attend the hero course, things like child soldier were tossed around with the sentiment like, they can fight killers, but they can't drink, frequently. I'll send you an email tonight with an update on what we learn. The two exchanged goodbyes, and Toshinori hung up, giving Naomasa a colossal smile. Thanks for coming. I know it was pretty last minute. Hey, the detective said, readjusting his bag. When the number one personally calls asking for an escort, the top brass are more than happy to spare you. And you get overtime. Tsukauchi nodded. And I get overtime. Well, let me show you to the inn. We can drop off your stuff and then head out, Toshinori said, placing his hand on his friend's shoulder and leaning close to whisper, Did you bring it? The detective nodded and patted his duffel bag. All packed and ready. Thank goodness. Toshinori sighed in relief as they started walking. Grant nearly gave me a heart attack, promising a public appearance. After dropping off Tsukauchi's bag, Toshinori sent Aizawa and Grant asking for their location. A few seconds later, he got a detailed map instructing him where to go and a message from the retired hero to wear his best clothes. For some reason, after Izuku's confession in the park, Grant had been strangely silent about anything All for One related. Toshinori had seen the man shove more food into his mouth whenever the eldest Shigaraki was brought up, more than he thought humanly possible. And when he wasn't cramming food into the former jet hero, he was staring out the window with a strange look on his face. Grant Torino wasn't big on tact or forgiveness. This often got him into trouble back during his single years of teaching. But even he had been more than a little shocked after that day in the park. In his own way, Toshinori wondered if his old teacher was trying to separate Hisashi from All for One just as he was. Hey, Toshi? Tsukauchi said, grabbing the blonde's shoulders before he could walk into a pool. Geez, you're out of it today. The blonde rubbed the back of his head in embarrassment. Sorry about that, just thinking. Tsukauchi's face became serious. Yeah, I bet. Look, I wanted to tell you before we met up with the others. Remember my investigation? Toshinori nodded, checking out Izuku's story about waking up in a tunnel. Yeah, Tsukauchi said, pulling out his phone and notepad. I've been trying to retrace his steps, but so far, no luck finding where he appeared from. I did talk to a lot of the homeless population in shelters, seeing if anyone knew stories. One guy told me a story about a monster named San who lived underground. Tsukauchi explained. He has plenty in his record for being drunk in public, but the name San got me thinking of the number 3. Toshinori finished, eyes widening. It's definitely possible. What about the names? Did anything come up in your records? Toshinori shook his head. That's a little more complicated. As you know, a majority of the records for that time were lost in the Great Fire. Luckily, when talking to Isuku, he mentioned his middle school. It was a long shot, but I called in a favor and had a friend in the city look into it for me. Holding out his phone, Toshinori accepted it and found a picture of Izuku staring back at him. The name Izuku Shigaraki is printed clearly below. Thankfully, the school is one of those old money places and kept all its old yearbooks, Tsukauchi said as Toshinori flipped through the photos. Izuku's school pictures, a photo of him and the student council, helping out in activities, tutoring. The photos continued until one final one, located near what Toshinori assumed was the back of the book. A full-page memorial dedicated to one Izuku Shigaraki. Shoto waited patiently outside the flower shop, waiting for Izuku to finish up his purchase inside. Gran Torino waited calmly next to him, holding a box full of offerings. Today, Izuku wanted to take them to visit his parents' grave, or at least the place where they had been 200 years ago. Shota wasn't sure why he wanted to do so. From what he had gathered during their first conversation, the mother had died when he was born and was neglectful towards her other children, and the father was the same, only abusive as well. But Izuku still wanted to visit them for some reason. All Might, barely enough time to call someone and have them come out of town. The number one had gone to meet this mysterious guest at the train station. If the underground hero was a betting man, his money would be on Nezu. Shota 100% certain that not only did Nezu know about All for One, but that the principal also helps cover up the fight from 5 years ago. "Hey," Grant said, nudging Aizawa in the side. "He's here." Glancing up, Shota was surprised to find not Nezu next to All Might, but Detective Tsukauchi. "Sorry we're late," Toshinori said, gesturing to the officer next to him. "Allow me to introduce you. Aizawa, this is Tsukauchi." Aizawa extended his hand to the officer. "Nice to see you again." The detective smiled and took the offered hand. "Eraserhead, nice to see you again. And hello, Sensei. It's been a while." Torino looked at the taller man for a second. Eyes narrowed before the face clicked to another one. "You're that Gen Ed brat who used to bandage that idiot up." "That's right," Tsukauchi smiled. "Glad you haven't forgotten me." Grant scoffed. "How could I? You were the only person who would willingly enter the training grounds when we were sparring." Toshinori started shaking as the memories of the spars he had with Gran Torino replayed in his mind. He was so caught up in his memories that he didn't hear Izuku exit the flower shop holding 2 large bouquets. Izuku looked at the group and, seeing the newcomer, narrowing his eyes in recognition. "Why is the police officer who questioned me here?" Snapping out of his daze, Toshinori smiled at the boy. "Oh, right. You two never officially met. Izuku, this is my good friend Detective Naomasa Tsukauchi. Tsukauchi, this is Izuku Shigaraki. My uncle." Izuku finished, readjusting his flowers so they wouldn't get squished, extending his hand. "Thank you for being friends with my nephew Naomasa." Toshinori shook the hand, offering his own greetings, while mouthing the words "uncle" to Toshinori. As soon as introductions were over, the group was set off towards their destination. A rather grand manor was located just next to an expansive forest, the same one Toshinori knew Izuku had been researching. It was widely considered the pride and joy of Nabu, and brought tourists flocking to it from all across the country. Even though it was technically owned by the Akatani group on paper, the city was really the ones who maintained and made use of it. Everything from weddings to corporate retreats had been held in at one time or another. The garden was especially famous amongst the entertainment industry and had been featured in many movies and television shows. There was one only area forbidden to people, a small acre of land behind the garden. That spot was their current destination. Everyone walked in silence, feeling a heavy, invisible weight pressed down on their shoulders with each step they took. At the end of the path, the trees parted, revealing a small clearing that housed multiple gravestones. Izuku's eyes focused on one in particular. "Oh, of course he used this place. We all loved it here," he mumbled, walking towards 2 gravestones that were separated from the others, placing a bouquet in front of each headstone. When he was finished, Izuku plucked 2 flowers out and made his way to the largest grave. It was an angel holding a small child, as she stared down at those below with a soft smile. Next to the stone was a woman with a larger headstone, followed by 6 smaller ones. Izuku placed the flower in front of the 2 gravestones, and turned around looking at the group. I can't tell you what happened after I disappeared. I can only tell you what I do remember. Toshinori looked like he wanted to say something, but Izuku held up his hand, stopping him. Our parents weren't great people. Mother cared about her image and partying more than her children, and father, he was cruel. Aizawa felt part of himself wince at that, knowing what Izuku meant. It was just us after father died, and that was fine. We were okay, 'cause we still had each other. Izuku spoke, remembering the quiet house that he had grown up in had suddenly burst to life with the arrival of one woman. Then she came. Inko Akatani, the first person to ever hold the title of One for All. Okay, let's start with let's start with All for One separation from Hisashi Shigaraki. We're not gonna address the elephant in the room yet. We'll get to you. It's very interesting because I believe, this is in my prediction and in my belief, that the author themselves, like, in writing this, is also telling, the viewer, the reader, to, separate the two. Because although, Hisashi Shigaraki is All for One is Hisashi Shigaraki, Like, does that make any sense, right? Hisashi is All for One. He built All for One. But All for One isn't, Hisashi. It's just a small part of him, right? And that is very interesting. And I literally, we've been, like, obviously this is a ground base and basis that it's been building up and up and up until then, which, oh my god, wait, the string. Oh, we're gonna get to that once we get to the elephant in the room. I got a little prediction. I'm joking. I don't know. I just got a little thing that I just remembered that I'm just like, wait, hold up. What does this mean in accordance to all of this? But we're not touching the elephant yet. Not looking at that. Turn around and let's talk about All for One. Not the elephant All for One. Hisashi. And the whole separating the two, because the thing is, like, obviously, clearly, they've been trying to figure out how to stop All for One, right? But they haven't stopped and think, okay, this is a human. Humans are 3-dimensional. If you can't stop them with power alone, you have to work smarter, not harder, Like, if there's, like, a really bad villain, instead of attacking them physically, emotionally. See, okay, build a character. Who are they? Really? Who are they really? Because once you build someone's character and really, like, know a person, you can defeat them. I think, in my opinion, this is where the whole stay close to your loved ones but closer to your enemies, or however that saying goes. Because you need to know your enemies to defeat them. Like, if they're too powerful for you and they're more powerful than you no longer, like, you cannot just give it all of your strength to defeat them. No, you have to sit down and be like, okay, clearly working hard is not working, so I have to work smarter. I have to navigate and I have to plan. But to be able to plan, you need to build a character. Need to be able to know, okay, how would this person react to this, this, and this, and this, and be able to sort out a plan like that, right? I can't handle it anymore. The elephant in the room. Inko was All for One originally. That is shocking. That is a shocking reveal. It was so out there. It was so just, it just drop. It's literally a bomb. I'm not saying that it was, like, revealed badly. I honestly loved how it was revealed because it is a shock. It is shocking. But then you stop and think, okay, clearly this has a purpose. and now I'm waiting for the rest. Where's the other shoe? You know, like, where is the rest of the shoe? Where's the rest of the story? What happened to go from point A to B? We know what happened at point A. We know what happened in point, we know that it goes to point B. What happens in the middle? Like, what happens between point A and B? Like, how did A go to B? You know, like, we just see A and B. We don't see the line. And I want to know the line, and I cannot wait to see the line. Now, as to my realization as I was, like, recording this outro right now, during, one of Izuku's, the coma state dream thing, when he was looking at all those strings, one of the strings he saw, right, because the strings were supposed to symbolize and represent people's quirks, right? Because if you take a quirk, it's established in the My Hero Academia that part of the person is the quirk, kind of, in a way. I don't know. Personally, I don't really like that, and I'm changing that in a way when I write my fanfic. I'm changing that to your soul is quite literally your quirk, right? Or it gets embedded and merged with your quirk. And so yeah, Inko's string was there. That's all I'm gonna say. Just keep that in mind. Inko was originally all for one. Izuku wants, or probably has, Inko's quirk. I don't know how that works. That is confusing, but I'll just leave you with that. And as always, make sure to eat, sleep, drink water, take your meds, have a wonderful day or night. Join our community Discord server, link is in the description. Subscribe to see more of my content. And thank you so much for watching.